happiness from within really is about choosing myself, whether I'm being perfect or imperfect, and allowing that unconditional self-acceptance to also be mirrored in my relationships. So yeah, it's unconditional self-regard.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another beautiful episode of Happiness from Within. I am beyond ecstatic. We have another really beautiful guest today. Her name is Gloria Zhang. She is an incredible psychotherapist, healer, relationship coach, and she's also known for her incredible podcast, the Inner Child Podcast, with over 1.7 million downloads, you guys. So I actually have her here in front of me, and she's going to share her words of wisdom and help you to find your happiness from within and just give incredible tips of a lot of beautiful things. So hello, Gloria. How are you today?
Hi, Jeanette. Thank you so much for that introduction. I was like, ooh, who is she talking about? Oh, it's me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you too. By the way, I really love your background. It is just like so
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you.
So,
Yeah,
so beautiful.
I am the love person. I'm still a hopeless romantic, and that apparently bleeds into my aesthetics. So here we are.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So my first question that I have for you is, what does happiness from within mean to you?
I was thinking about this while we were about to get ready. Because I know that you ask all the guests, and I've heard such beautiful answers from your other guests on the podcast so far. And I feel like I've spent my whole life asking myself that, and it's
Mm,
part of the healing and love journey. And I don't know if I will ever come to the right answer, but the current answer is happiness from within really is about choosing myself, whether I'm being perfect or imperfect, and allowing that unconditional self acceptance to also be mirrored in my relationships. So, yeah, it's unconditional self regard.
wow. I love that. I'm literally getting goosebumps. It's always beautiful to ask people this question
Of
because there is no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever comes from the heart and soul. So thank you for beautifully sharing that.
course.
That was really, really, really
Yeah. It
great.
came out a lot deeper than I thought in my mind.
Oh no, I love it. We go deep here. So this is not happiness from
Yeah.
the outside, but happiness
Right?
from within.
Within. You're right. You got it. Okay.
So, I would love for you to take us back, Laura. Where are you originally from? Where did you grow up?
So currently live in Vancouver, which is where we have that mutual friend, Deidre Siriani, was also on your podcast. But I actually moved here from Toronto just short of a year ago. So very much, raised as a big city girl in bustling Toronto. And that's where my roots are.
Okay, beautiful. That's wonderful. So I would love to I want to talk about this inner child. Like this is so exciting. I first want to from my heart
Mm,
to yours, I just want to congratulate you on, your success that you have now and you continue to have, helping, literally hundreds and thousands of people all over the world with your podcast and through your program. And
thank
I would,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. I would just love to know, like, where did this spring out of, like this idea of the inner child? Like, did you go
Yeah.
through some challenges, if you whatever you feel comfortable sharing, like as a child, or
Mhm.
like where did this emerge for
Yeah.
you? That's the question. I was waiting
Yeah.
for it to come
Yeah.
out.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, the inner child journey actually started as a love story for me, or rather, the search for love. And everything always seems obviously, I have childhood trauma. Duh, wouldn't be here otherwise. But it is what it is. But I grew up in a family where I had never witnessed what a healthy, functioning relationship or marriage looked like. There was all kinds of stuff happening in my extended family, like addictions. I have a aunt that went to jail, divorce, cheating. There was just a lot of chaos and drama that has existed in my family for generations. And I was born into that, right? Not to mention my parents that moved here. Um, and I was raised by first gen immigrants, and that's a whole other layer in itself. But amidst all of that chaos, I grew up as this hopeless romantic little girl, secretly waiting for or hoping for my soulmate to come and maybe rescue me from all of this. And I thought that if only I met the right person, then I would finally know what it was like to be loved, and maybe I wouldn't have all these problems anymore. And so much of my life was driven by trying to find the one.
Mhm.
But because I'd never seen what a healthy functioning relationship looked like, I always found myself chasing after the wrong guys,
Mhm.
right? Of course, we hear about that all the time. I was drawn to these men who were very emotionally unavailable, who didn't want to commit to me, who played mind games on me, who cheated on me. It was all of the same patterns I'd seen in my family, but now it was happening to me, right? So not only did I fail to get out of that pattern, I repeated the exact same thing.
Mhm.
To make it even worse, I'm a therapist.
Mhm.
I'm supposed to know this stuff, right? I'm supposed to be professional, and I read everything about healthy relationships, textbook, you know, techniques and attachment styles. But despite having a very good career working with other clients, I felt like I couldn't figure my own shit out. And it was a big problem for a while until I discovered that I had an unhealed inner child. And she was the one that was repeating those patterns with men. And it wasn't until after I healed that that I then met my now husband. And we've been together for almost 4 years. Thank you very much. And I just took that same process and now I use it to help other high achieving women to break out of that pattern and find their husbands. So that's a long answer to your short question, but there we are.
No, no, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It was
Thank you.
interesting. I remember reading, it was like a while ago. It was like I think it's like one in every four people in the world have gone through something traumatically, right? It's like
Mm,
it's a very common thing, right?
yes.
Um yeah, it's just really interesting how like just on some level we're all interconnected, we all go through different things in life and so I'm just curious what made you so you're going through all these really just dark moments in your life and you're developing yourself and you heal yourself and um take us back like what actually let's talk a little bit about your podcast. Where when did you launch
Mm.
that?
Yeah, I launched the show about 3 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like right in the middle of COVID. And I think that was a time when a lot of people were forced to confront their own issues, right? They're stuck inside, there's nothing to distract yourselves with. So definitely gained popularity during that time. And yeah, the show is all about teaching people about what the inner child is and also how to reclaim that part of our story, right? So that we're not repeating those childhood wounds in the future.
Wow, that's beautiful. Wow, 3 years, like that's incredible. You've had a short amount of success in such a short period of time. I mean, that's really, really
Oh, thank
incredible.
you.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
a lot
really
of work.
yeah, no, no, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your work. So I understand that you're a psychotherapist. So like somebody comes to you and they need help. Tell us a little bit more about like your work and what you do and how
Mhm.
you help people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the inner child healing piece is always at the center of what I do, even though when people come to me, it's because it's showing up in their relationships or their dating life, right? So that's sort of the entry point into the wound. But then as people discover that, hey, I didn't feel loved as a child, or I didn't feel worthy as a child, they notice how it's not only in the relationships, but this same pattern actually comes up in their business or in their
Mm,
career or in friendships. And so I don't work with people one on one anymore. I've found what's been most effective is building an entire community around this process I developed.
mm,
And so you basically get to stay forever, right? And continue your journey with other women who are also giving you feedback and accountability. So that's how we work with people now. We start with the root inner child piece and figuring out what core wounds you have that keep showing up in relationships. And maybe it's your daddy issues, maybe it's your mommy issues, maybe it's a fear of being alone, right? Or maybe you've always been a people pleaser and you perform as the perfect girlfriend or the perfect wife, and then we teach them how to date in a new way so that they're not attracting the same types of guys as before. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell what we do.
no, that's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at your website and I was just like, wow, it's just really incredible, what you've created and what you're doing. So again, congratulations for that. That's just really,
Thank you. Yeah,
you're
we
welcome.
love love, and it starts with loving the self, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love to go into this topic of, I feel like the energy that's flowing right now is
Mm,
I don't feel worthy. So anybody that's
mm,
listening to
mm,
this, we all go through this, but
right.
would you mind whatever flows
Yeah.
through your soul, like what is, even if it's just one thing you want to share, two things, like this sense of like not feeling worthy, because it can show up in every aspect of our life, right?
Mm.
Like somebody that's listening or watching this, what are some steps that they can do to recognize it or start healing that I am not worthy?
Such such a good question. And it always like hits something to the core of it. Um, you definitely read the room, right? I think so many issues actually stem down to that self permission or the worthiness. Where I see it in my work, I work with a lot of primarily high achieving women, right? So very like driven career women. And I see that this lack of self worth is usually covered up by two very distinct masks that high achieving women wear. I think maybe it'll be helpful for me to share it here. But the outer layer is what I call the boss bitch. Right? Yeah, the boss bitch. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need strong, independent women. But it's only when we wear that as a shield that it becomes a problem, right? It's only if we're trying to mask our vulnerabilities with this, I'm tough, independent, I don't need no man, right? I'm gonna walk all over men. That it's protecting us from looking at something deeper. So that's the first layer. And
Mm,
then the second layer is what I call the good girl or the martyr, right? And that's when the boss bitch gets into a relationship with the wrong man.
mm,
And all of a sudden, she goes from being super confident to being this anxious, scared, obsessive little girl who wants to take care of him, wants to fix him, is trying to do everything perfectly, is trying to please him, right? She's trying to be this little good girl who's always a goody two shoes, not rocking the boat, not starting trouble. Oh, let's just make him happy. Let's see his potential. Oh, let's give him a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, a fifth chance, right?
mm,
And underneath that perfectionism and that self-sacrificial, like, let me give myself to you so that I can save you and help you. Underneath that is the lack of self-worth that you were just talking about. That deep down, we don't believe we deserve it, whether
mm,
it is a relationship, whether it is letting someone take care of you instead of you taking care of them, or maybe it's that promotion or that business, right? and we cover it up with all of these protective layers that aren't really who we really are.
Mm.
So that was a lot.
No,
But I'll put that
that's
out there.
beautiful. Wow. Wow. No, I love it. That's incredible. Thank you for that. Yeah, the next question I have for you is, so I've noticed that, like, and I'm guilty of this too, right? It's actually still something I'm working on, just to be open with you, like,
Mm,
just human being on planet Earth. Welcome
of
to planet
course.
Earth. It's just like, those of us that have gone through, very deep trauma and healing, and we're trying to heal, is like, we say that I'm sorry a lot, right? Like, I just
Mm,
want to know if you could touch on that, because I know that's especially for a lot of women, this is it's very difficult, right? Because
yeah.
it's steps that we have to take to heal that inner child, right? It's like, what are we being sorry about? But yeah, anything you'd like to touch on that subject would be beautiful.
Yeah. Plus, I'm a Canadian. It's even worse here. It's just the culture at some point. It's so true. Women seem to apologize a lot.
Mm,
And uh, speaking of the trauma piece, in psychology, we call that the fawn response. So it's the trauma response where we survive by pleasing people, right? Winning their favor so that they don't hurt us. And it's a very real thing. I think a lot of women have been conditioned to have that response, right? Because it's, I can't fight you, I can't run away from you. And so the best I can do in this moment is try to not make you upset, right? So I'll apologize, I'll over explain myself, I'll ignore my own feelings and do what you want, and then maybe that'll keep me safe. And I think we forget that there's a very real survival reason why we do that, and that helps to be compassionate towards ourselves, right? Because we're not trying to be a sorry Sally. We're not trying to please. We're trying to keep ourselves safe in that situation, right?
mm,
Um, until it becomes a pattern that isn't serving us any longer. And we catch ourselves apologizing when we actually want to be assertive, right?
mm,
Or we catch ourselves taking the blame when it's actually someone else's fault. And I think that's probably what you're getting at.
mm. Wow, I love how you said, I love everything you said, but I really love the part that you said that personally resonated with me, and I believe it's going to resonate with other people. When you said it's no longer serving you, that was really
Yes.
deep what you said, and it's so so true, right? It's so so true. Wow. I
Yeah.
literally, I wish you could see through the screen here. I'm literally getting goosebumps right here, Gloria, like right here. This is so good. I just love it. I
Yeah.
love your energy, your aura. It's so beautiful. It's just
Thank
in
you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I was
So,
a huge people pleaser. I totally know what you mean. Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
So another question that I feel is coming through is, so this concept of forgiveness, right? So there's people
Mm.
that do a lot of damage, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally, trauma wise, right? Whatever it is that somebody went through. And there's this concept of like, okay, I'm gonna forgive them, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna forget what
Mm.
happened, right? Then does that mean I really forgave them? But I just wanted to know
Right.
if you could touch on the subjects, anything that comes up for you, because um I just feel like it's just something that's really, really huge,
Mm.
and how to move past that through
Yeah.
healing. Obviously, it's like a lot of steps, but anything you'd like to share on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm if you clicked on this episode, then probably someone hurt you. Right? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all carry wounds from our past of, being betrayed by people, being hurt by people. Forgiveness is it's a great question, Jeanette, because it's very touchy. I don't believe it's always necessary that we have to forgive to move on. And the only reason I put that as a caveat is there has been a lot of religious programming around gaslighting people to forgive at times,
Mm,
right? Like like the Lord wants you to forgive. Um, and a lot of messaging around blaming someone for not being able to move on. And I don't really agree with that. I don't think that's what forgiveness really means. Um, but I think that if it feels right for you, and it's not to please other people,
Mhm.
but if it feels right for you to forgive someone for the sake of your own healing, then you can absolutely do it. And forgiving someone doesn't mean that you're condoning what their actions are,
Mhm.
right? It just means that you are choosing to get closure on what happened, and then you want to move on. So it's never about letting the other person off the hook in that
Mm.
sense. So yeah, I mean, certainly there have been ex-partners that have really hurt me, and I don't want to be their friend anymore. I don't want any connection to do with them. I think what they did to me wasn't good, but I might choose to forgive them so that I can move on, right? Yeah, that's my answer.
No, I think that's beautiful because I've had this dialogue with, just close women friends of mine, throughout the years. And I personally have overcome a lot of trauma, worked with trauma specialists. And
So happy for you.
yeah, thank you. And it was something that finally, after so many years, right? Like, if you don't mind me sharing briefly,
Of course.
it
Of
was
course.
just that I came to recognize, just particular people that caused me this trauma. Like, I did come to a point of forgiveness, but I was like, it's not okay what you did to me, right? And after so many years, I was actually able to pick up the phone and actually confront these people. Like, it was wild, right?
That's huge.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was really crazy, right? And beautiful at the same time. And it was like roller coaster, but I was like, I had to do it for a cause for my life, right? It
Right.
wasn't to please him, it was just something that I had to do, right? And there's still, particular individuals, right, will say like what I wanted to add was just like the word that I'm oh, there it is. The word that I want to share is that a sense of awareness, right?
Yes.
Like particular family members, right, that caused me pain. I'm just like, I came to a point, like, this was actually during COVID. I was just like, I'm going to forgive you, but I'm not going to argue with you anymore. Right. Like, you want to be the way you're going to be, then
Right.
you stay in your little tornado. Right. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to get inside of the tornado. Like, I want to be
Yes.
the Dorothy that stays. I don't want to go to
Yeah.
the other land, the Wizard of Oz land. I'm going to
Yes.
stay right where I'm at. I'm not going to get in
Mm.
your little tornado, right? So I think of having a sense of awareness, right? I really
Mhm.
believe that healing does that for all of us,
Right.
is awareness, right? And that's and it takes time for all of us, it's everybody's on their own beautiful journey of healing.
Mhm.
And I know you know this, and anyone's listening, watching this, like, it's freaking hard. I mean, it's not rainbows,
Mhm.
butterflies, and unicorns and pumpkin
No.
patches. Like, no, like, you're gonna go through the dark night of the soul. You're gonna go through the cave, and you might feel like you don't see light, but there's always light at the other end of the tunnel. Always, always, always. Light always wins over the darkness. I sound like I'm preaching here, but no, I'm not
I
religious
love
at all
it.
whatsoever. But no, I just felt like I wanted to share that. So
Yeah. That it's so beautiful, Jeanette, and I'm so proud of your journey, because a lot of people never take that journey, right? And it's so easy to talk the talk, but someone who's been through it and who has been through that dark night of the soul knows that, yeah, you're right. It's not rainbows and butterflies. It's sewers and gutters, right? And mold on bananas, right? And it's a more realistic uh actual picture of what healing is. It's not like beautifully, doing yoga on a mountain somewhere.
yeah, and I think on some point in our life too, it's like sometimes even after we do heal, it's like life is always, you have a mountain, but then you're gonna have you get to the top of that one, but there's always gonna be another one, right? We think, oh,
Yep.
we're gonna get to some Buddha land, and ooh, we're just gonna be planting the unicorns, and it's
Right.
all gonna be okay. That's just not life. I mean,
No.
life is always gonna have its challenges, but it's our awareness and what we do about it, right? So
Right. Yeah, it's always growing.
always,
Yeah,
always
and I'm
growing.
still going through. I still have a therapist, right? I'm still working through it just like everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. Like, I still hire coaches for different things. As I'm like, if I'm not
Mhm.
growing, I'm dying. I always have to be
Yeah.
improving ourselves, right?
Yes.
So I have another deep question for you. I'd like
Ooh,
to
bring it
talk
on,
about
sister. Yeah.
I'd like to talk about this relationship that we have with our mother, right?
Ooh,
But can
yes.
you, again, anything that just flows and the right
Mm,
answer just kind of come up, but can you talk about how we all have different relationships with our mom, right? Some
yeah.
people, my heart goes out to you for those that are listening, watching, and maybe you never had a relationship with your mother. Maybe she
Mm,
died when you were younger, or you never met her, right? Or maybe you were adopted, whatever the case is. But how can we heal that inner mother wounds,
mm,
mother connection?
mm.
That's the question.
Yes. Yeah, she
We'll talk
got
about the father
it.
one in a second, but I want to focus on the
Yeah.
mother because that one is really deep.
Yes, the mother wound. Yeah, funny enough, it is often the father wound that gets talked about more, and we
Mm,
forget, which is very interesting because that kind of mirrors what we see about, the feminine and the masculine in our society. Very interesting. Um, but our relationship with our mother, for most people, is the first experience that we have with the feminine
mm,
from before birth, from the time that we were in the womb, right? So you think about that for a second. Not only is this usually our first feminine relationship, but we came out of that into this world, right? You grew inside her. And so spiritually, of course, it echoes that the feminine is creativity, right? Giving birth to life. But depending on what that relationship looks like, can really shape how we feel about other women and also what we think our role is as a woman, as a girlfriend or a wife. And I'm speaking to women, of course. It's a little bit different if you identify as a different gender, right? But from my personal expertise, so it's very impactful. And I'll give you a personal example. My mother grew up in her culture as this sort of martyr character. She was very self-sacrificing. Everything was for the family, right? For the family. And what I learned from that is that the woman has no voice in the relationship, that her job is to sacrifice her body and her time to help other people.
mm,
And that's where that good girl mask comes in, right?
mhm,
But the mother is also the person that you drink milk from the teat that's supposed to be your home base.
mhm,
And if you don't feel safe in relationship to the divine mother, which is represented by your actual mother, then how do you grow in a healthy way as an infant who requires that safe home base to return to, right? In the healthy stages of development. I'm just totally riffing here
No,
from
it's
from
just
what I
great.
know. Yeah, and so that's why we can have so many complicated emotions towards our own mother. Um, Resentment, right? We can feel love for our mothers, but also feel sorry for them, feel upset at them. Some people have had a very controlling mother, and that's a whole other wound on its own, right? Some people had a very passive mother who never stood up to the father, and so they feel abandoned, right? And you see all of these different scenarios of how our relationship to the divine mother is totally warped, right? And then we crave that motherly love from maybe someone else, or we seek it in our relationships, right? Or through older female friendships and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's a pretty big piece in healing. And for me personally, where it came up was how I showed up in relationships and how I basically turned into my mother when I was in my relationship. And that was a part that I really had to look at. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's really, really, really deep. Wow.
Yeah, really deep. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't always have the best relationship with my mother. I love my mother and it definitely got better over the years, you know. But, you know, I'm always grateful her to this day because she's an amazing woman and I love her so much and learn a lot from her, you know. So, yeah.
Mm,
So, can we
yeah.
talk a
Shout
little
out
bit
to our
about,
moms.
say again?
Oh, shout out to our moms.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Shout out to the moms. Can we talk a little bit about the fatherly wound?
Yes. Yeah, the counterpart, right? And the reason I hear about this more than the mother wound is it's just a little bit more obvious to
Hmm.
women when they realize that, ooh, I keep dating guys that are unavailable, like my father. Like, oh, I think I have some daddy wounds here, right? Or I have some father wounds here. And so our father, at the same time, also tends to be our first relationship with the masculine, or
Hmm.
one of the most important ones, right? And the father, of course, serves a purpose as well. But they did find that in the States, all-time record high of fatherless um, relationships at home, right? There's
Wow.
a huge, huge percentage of families where the father is absent, right? And then it kind of makes you wonder, um, what happens to these kids? And the research shows that generally speaking, it's not good. It's something like almost 80% of inmates grew up without a father, right? And these are statistics, and there's a lot of deeper work for us to do there when it comes to reconciling the masculine and the feminine. But the way that the father wound shows up is when you have unresolved stuff with your dad or lack of a dad. And usually that starts to show up in your romantic life, right? If your father abandoned you, you tend to gravitate towards men who also abandon you.
Hmm.
And the deeper reason that happens is you're trying to relive the past so that you can change it.
Oh,
It's very deep, right?
wow.
If I'm dating Billy over here, Billy doesn't want me, but if I can somehow win him over and make him choose me, maybe it will make up for the fact that my father walked away. Or maybe if I can win over Billy, who's in prison, right? Who has addictions and can't be emotionally present for me, maybe I can fix him to prove that maybe I am lovable after all,
Mm.
right? And so we try to change our story by repeating the same pattern. But that's not the real solution because the avoidant can't be your knight in shining armor, right? The solution is actually changing your patterns so that you feel attracted to the person who can actually show up for you the way that you need it. That's a whole other story. Right? But until then, until you've really looked at changing that pattern, that father wound can keep showing up time and time again in your relationships.
Wow.
Yeah.
Woo!
Mic drop, but not
No.
actually. It's very expensive.
No, that was really wow. Wow. I'm literally still getting goosebumps. I think they moved up to here
Oh.
now.
Oh.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. This is great. I love
My pleasure.
it interviewing just incredible souls from all over the world. This is just so my next question for you, I'm just getting all the deep questions for
Oh,
you.
yes. Let's go, girl.
Yeah, my next question for you is when we're whether man or woman listening to this, right? When we're
Mhm.
healing from trauma and in whatever form that looks like, right? What do you ever Hold on, I just had the question just went blank. Um
It's coming back.
it's coming back. It's coming back. It's okay. Um yeah, I'm just wondering like I know that you work with high achieving women, right? Like
Mhm.
do you ever have them do any sort of like embodiment practices? I would love if you could touch on that subject because I really love embodiment.
Yes. Yes. As soon as you said that, I got all excited. Like, yes, that's my jam. Yeah. It's because, and the reason I work with high achievers is because low achievers don't want to heal, right? Because they're, there's no internal desire to want to change. And so most people who go to therapy or hire a coach or decide to enter the self-help world, they are high achievers because they want to heal.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where it comes from. But us, people like us who love self-development and we love healing, sometimes can fall into the trap of the knowledge, right?
Mm,
I'm just, ooh, like I know all the information. I've heard this before, can prevent us from actually embodying it, right? And
mm,
I'm totally guilty of this as well. Because it kind of scratches an itch. Like, okay, I've listened to someone talk about it. And so it satisfies the part of me that wants to be in control. Um, and so the body piece is actually feeling the feelings and not just talking about feeling the feelings, right? Because there's a difference. And we can really trick ourselves into thinking that we're feeling when actually we're talking about feeling the feeling, right? And so the embodiment piece can be as simple as, okay, you're angry, right? No, sorry, not you, Jeanette.
I
Just
understand.
hypothetically, you feel angry. Well, where is it? Is it here? Right?
Mm,
Is it like a burning in your throat where you can't speak? Is it over here? And learning to allow those feelings to just rest in your body instead of being afraid of the sensations. Because usually what I find is we avoid feeling things because it's the actual sensation of it that we don't like.
mm,
So I don't like feeling afraid. It sucks. It's the
mm,
worst feeling in the world. Like I literally feel like I'm shrinking and turning invisible,
mm,
right? So I avoid feeling it so that I don't have to experience the sensation of being in fear. But then I miss the lesson,
mm,
which is in the emotion, and I'm disconnected from myself. So I let myself go through the motion. I let my throat clench up. I let that icy coldness spread across my chest, even though it feels so bad.
mm.
And then it goes away.
Yeah.
It's not because I forced it to go away, but because the body has its natural equilibrium. And once an emotion runs its course, then it's gone, right? And then I've allowed my body to regulate itself by going through the motion. It's just like if it gets really hot, you'll start to sweat. And it doesn't feel great, but you're not going to sweat forever because once the body has cooled down, it will stop. And it's the same thing with emotions. So yeah, definitely getting into your body, super important.
Wow. No, that's beautiful. Yeah, I was bringing up this question too because I'm not sure if you know who Sahara Rose is. She's
Yes, I love
yeah.
her podcast too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's a really special soul. I part of her group and she, I've always been so inspired by
Awesome.
her. I've met her several times and the embodiment piece that I really love is the dancing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I like to be silly and like, we all have our ways of expressing ourselves, however that is, right? Creatively. So that's where that question came up.
Yes. Oh, girl, I'm not a great dancer. I got a
Oh,
little
me
bit of a
neither.
Taylor Swift, robotic thing going on, but I'll still do it.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
No, I love it. Yeah, I'm just really loving the energy here. It's just been really, really great.
me too.
Um, yeah, I just have a few more questions and then we can wrap up if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it.
I would love to know, could share with the audience, how would you like to be remembered when you take your last breath?
Oh, damn. We're diving right into the deep end. Oh my God. Oh, that is a good question. I'll have to steal that one. Wow. It's funny because I just got back from a trip visiting my grandparents who are at the end of their lives. They're in their 90s. So I've actually been thinking about death quite a lot. It's the reality of the journey, and it's going to come for all of us. And that used to sound like a hypothetical question, right? Like if I drew my last breath, but it's going to happen one day. Um, and I think we don't really understand the reality of that. So I have a very fresh answer. I just, I don't think I no longer care as much about what other people think of me because that was a whole journey on its own, right? But I want to remember myself as someone who wasn't afraid of life anymore. Because I had spent so much of my past life second guessing myself, starting things and then stopping because I wasn't sure or was too obsessed about how is it going to turn out? How is this going to turn out? And that's really a fear of life, right? Because life is the unknown. So I think I am closer to really understanding that now. And so, yeah, I do want to be remembered as someone who just did all the things and squeezed every drop out of life as possible and didn't leave with any regrets, whatever that looks like. Wait, what was that your question? I forget the original question. Yeah.
It was just how you want to be remembered when you take your
Oh,
last breath. But
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was great. I love it. No, that's beautiful. So the thing I like to do at the end of my podcast right now is I just would like to open up the floor again for you just to share just anything that comes from your heart, any last minute words, and then if you can share where people can find you. And of course, the information
Mhm.
will be below on all major platforms. But anyone that's listening, if they want to write down, because they're excited to follow you.
Yeah.
If you want to say that towards the end. But yeah, I just want to open the floor and any last minute words you'd like to share from your heart and soul.
Of course. Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Janet. Jeanette, I am leaving with a lot of energy just from being in your presence, and you're such a great podcast host. But I knew that already.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Thank you. I received that.
Yeah, of course. The last words that I always want to share is that at the end of the day, it's all just love.
Mm.
And the reason why that's such a cheesy, generic thing to say is because it's true. Most of the best truths tend to be quite cheesy and generic. And love in its many forms, right? It's love for ourselves, which can then be mirrored as love for others, whether it's friendship or relationship. The source of that love, it all comes from that same divine place. And that's what really matters in the end. But you also need to work for it in the sense that you are already love. And the work you need to do is removing the things that are blocking you from accessing the love that you already are. And the journey is well worth it.
Wow. I literally see like fairies and unicorns flying around me. I'm not kidding you. It's just like so magical. And I love those mythical creatures, by the
Oh,
way. I love.
me too.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
love it.
never used to dress up until my 30s. It's like I spent so much of my life like hiding a little bit or like, just like downplaying, right? And but no more, no more, no more of that. Now it's all
Sparkly. You
rainbows,
gotta be
unicorns.
sparkly and
Yeah,
shiny. Like this jacket that I'm
exactly.
wearing is from this
Exactly.
is from there's this amazing young woman. Her name is Gabby. She has a brand called Sparkle Fashion.
Oh
And
my
here in Santa
gosh.
Monica, and it's all about feeling like a princess, and
Yeah.
it's on fairies and unicorns, and I'm
Girl,
just like,
you gotta
heck
link me
yeah,
up.
I'm all over that.
Yeah. You gotta link me up because that jacket looks fabulous on you.
Oh, thank you.
Very,
Yeah, I'll
very
send.
Barbie coded.
Yeah, she's just an incredible person inside and out. So, but yeah, I'll send it to you on Instagram. But I really want to thank you again from my heart to yours. This has just been such an honor to have you here on the show. And where can people find you?
Yeah, thank you. This was so much fun. I can't wait to re-listen to this episode. I'm most active on Instagram. I'm a bit of an Instagram girly. And you can find me at by Gloria Zhang, like BY Gloria Zhang. Or you can check out my podcast, the Inner Child Podcast. Although I will be having a new podcast coming out soon,
Oh, how
so that's
exciting.
that's something in the works. Yes.
That's wonderful. New projects are always exciting.
Yeah.
You
Thank
just
you
want to
so
get on
much.
that unicorn and start going towards the rainbow. And
Hell yes.
I'm
Just
quirky
shh.
crazy.
So am I. Same energy.
Well, as we fly towards the rainbow, you guys,
Yes.
let's depart and say thank you to Gloria. Thank you so much. And I just wish you guys a wonderful, fabulous day. And remember to smile because you're worthy. Have a great day, you guys.